All right. Coffee with a mega with a lot of technical difficulties. This is, we're still learning this. Guys, welcome to this. I am Patrick Madigan. I'm the Vice President of the Triangle Chapter of Keller Williams Young Professionals. We've been hosting these Coffee with a Mega interviews. Today, our guest is Sheena for quite a few months now. And usually I'm coming in right at the start time. This one I was 15 minutes early and my home Wi-Fi just started to quit. So I am out front. And if that weed eater's too loud, let me know and I will go in the backyard if someone's doing yard work nearby. But we are really excited to have Sheena on today. In case you don't know and you're visiting with us or you're watching the YouTube recording later, we're all affiliated with Keller Williams Real Estate, which is an international company. We have a really amazing segment called Coffee with a Mega, called Young Professionals. And it's specifically for people under 40 who are looking to build a big business and a big life. And it's one of the most inspirational, motivational groups that I've ever found in my life. The people that I meet in Keller Williams, like Sheena, like other people who are on this call, are just amazing. And so while we're getting this call started, Emily, Meredith, Stephen, if you guys can keep an eye on our Facebook groups and make sure no one's having trouble with the Zoom links. This guy is just coming right by my house all of a sudden.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Okay, great. It's so loud for me, I can barely hear myself talk. But we host these Zooms once a month with different agents from around the country, not just who are making the most money, because that's not what it's about. The people who are living big lives, doing good in their communities, which you're going to hear about from Sheena, and many other things. So with all that said, please, if you're curious about Keller Williams, if you're already with KW and you're curious about Keller Williams Young Professionals, it's super easy, kyp.org. And I promise all these Zoom calls aren't going to be like this. I'm going to fix my Wi-Fi next month or tomorrow so we don't have this issue. But Sheena, you're great. You've been awesome to roll with the punches on this. And so we're just going to jump right into it. So Sheena, you are in Washington, DC area. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to start off easy. I know we got a lot of questions we could go through. These Zooms all go different meandering paths. So why don't you just tell us what it was like, either high school or college, Sheena, where you were as a young adult and how you got into real estate, and did you jump straight into real estate or did you have some jobs or careers beforehand? So take it away. Tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm in the DC metro area. I do have, I guess, kind of an interesting story, like origin story, I've heard people say. So I grew up in the military. My dad was in the Army, so I moved all around the world, all around the country. When I was 14, we moved back to the States. So we moved to Maryland. My dad was stationed at the Pentagon. And after that, I went to the University of Maryland, got a degree in political science, brought my high school boyfriend. He was also in college. He joined the military, so I moved to Utah. And throughout that whole time, I was working at different nonprofits. I obviously came from a service-oriented background. My dad, obviously in the military, and my mom, they didn't have internet back then. So she, people didn't, when they were spouses, they typically didn't work because you're moving every 6 months, every 2 years. So my mom would kind of set up a little nonprofit everywhere we went. Like she would learn that the soldiers were spending their paychecks before they got it. So she would just set up a desk in one of the buildings and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to budget. So I think I got that level of proactiveness and just kind of trying to build community and bring value from both of them, just kind of seeing that around me. And I just felt like my thing was going to be, I was going to be an executive director of a nonprofit. That's kind of what I thought. So I was working at various nonprofits, got my master's in national security policy back in the DC metro area. And this was like 2009, like right at the crash. Didn't really know anything about real estate. But I lost my job. I had $47,000 in student loan debt, and I was making $42,000 and lost that job. So my husband was in IT sales, and he's like, well, what about real estate? And I thought, like a lot of people, oh, okay, I'll try that. So I got into it. And since then, we've built a pretty sizable business. I like to call us a small but mighty team. We have 10 agents. We sold almost 200 million in real estate last year, entirely by referral. We've never bought a lead. We've never made a cold call. We really build through community and giving back, which we can get to some of those stories. We've done some really cool things in Africa and locally. And yeah, I love my life. That's where we are. Oh, oh, what? You're on mute, Patrick. But I see baby back
there. We go. Thank you. Yep, that's the 4-year-old that I mentioned I was hiding from as we hopped on the call. We got Allie Harrell here. What's up, Allie? I'm glad people are coming into the room, and make sure you guys keep an eye on the Facebook and Instagram to make sure everyone can have the link. Sheena, that's so cool. I didn't realize that we share military background. I spent 5 years as a kid in Fairfax County at Fort Belvoir. And when we were there for this KWSE Sports Entertainment trip in DC a few weeks ago, my kids came with me. I showed them my old house and all that kind of stuff. So I wish we had connected, but for the next time. So what was it like when you first got into real estate? What were those early days like? Because that's where a lot of us young professionals find ourselves. We're either a solo agent or in the early stages of building a team. Tell us about your productivity. What were the first ways that you found business?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good question. And I really always want to bring a lot of transparency and authenticity to kind of my ride. I've been on this ride for about 12 years. Because sometimes you'll see like a group of top producers, like a panel, and sometimes new agents will ask, like, what's the secret to getting here? And you almost all inevitably hear, you just got to find balance. Like, you just have to try to find like how to live and enjoy life and also like, and business too, but like, make sure you don't forget about, and I always think, really, is that how you got here? Because I doubt it. And they didn't. Like, when you really dig in, that's not, and not to say you should enjoy your life, but the way I got here, and I think a lot of people get to sort of this point, is you do literally whatever it takes. If someone wants to meet me at 3 a.m. in a dark alley in Washington, DC to sell a house, back then I would have met them. Now I just sent another agent, but like, it's really about the hustle. And I definitely came in knowing nothing. I joined a brokerage where it was really focused on the contract and like taking really great fiduciary care of your client. So I think it was a great place to start. But after a few years of that place and then one more, I realized like I needed more. And luckily I found Keller Williams. And I always say you should take a shot every time I say Keller Williams, because you're going to have a good time if you do, because I just really owe a lot to Keller Williams. I started out, I think I sold like 6 homes my first year. There just wasn't as much inventory. Right now we have 1.5 million realtors. Back then it was, I don't know, maybe a third of that. There are 1 million real estate agents, like potential real estate agents in school right now for real estate. So there just wasn't that much inventory to go around. To sell 30 or 40 homes in your first year back then was unheard of. Like, that's just not possible. Every top agent in my brokerage right now started at the same time I did. And they all, like, they wouldn't have survived if they didn't have a spouse. So it was tough, but I didn't know it was tough because I didn't know any better. So I read this book called Up and Running in 30 Days by Carla Cross. And she had been in a previous market and sold, I think, 75 homes her first year. And I basically wrote a business plan based on that. It was just like, what are the key things that I'm going to do each week? And essentially, I guess I did time blocking before I realized what time blocking was. I just put things in my calendar. And as long as I got those things done, I felt good. Because like a lot of people, it's like, sometimes it's like, either you're often in one place or the other. Either you're the person who like, it's a hard time getting up in the morning. It's a hard time doing that prospecting. The other half of people I feel like are people who just don't know when to stop. So you just keep going. And I was kind of one of those people. And I often have to go back to that and go, okay, am I getting the stuff done that I need to do? As long as I put that in my calendar. And some of the things that I did, it was before Facebook was really big for real estate agents. So as I was learning, because it's key, right? If you're trying to build a referral-based business, I didn't know you could cold call people. I've never cold called anyone. I didn't know you could until I joined Keller Williams. So I was just kind of working from my sphere, and I was very intentional about it. Every time I would learn something like, oh, what happens when there's a low appraisal? I would write a blog post on Trulia. Back then you could write a blog post for free. I would write a blog post and I would share it on Facebook. Anytime I would meet a client, I would share it on Facebook. So like, I was just trying to help people understand that I was busy and I was the expert. I at least understood that at some level. And I just kept hustling. Any baby shower I could go to, any opportunity to be in a room with 20, 30, 40, 50 people that I could meet, add to Facebook. And so it just kind of grew in a very entrepreneurial way. And then once I started hiring people, I realized, oh, I got to be like a little more intentional. I have to like put this is a model. I built a model. So I had to go backwards and go, okay, how often was I posting on Facebook? How many people was I seeing every week? How many people was I having conversations with? And what did I do to grow as a person? Because that's really key too. I think that's the other half of it. It's like the hustle, but it's also always being humble. I mean, like I said, we sold over 300 homes last year, but I read a book every week. Like I have so much to learn as a human being, as a leader. So I think just having the focus on that, which Keller Williams is so, so focused on that. Another reason why we will always align ourselves with this company. Oh, you're on mute, Patrick.
Thank you. I'm just sparing you guys from the lawn maintenance around the thing. 300 homes, almost 200 million, you said, right? Last year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump now to present day, Sheena.
Okay.
What's your mindset when you wake up in the morning? Because if you're selling 300 homes, that means you got a lot of problems going on in your business. How do you motivate yourself or your people? I assume you're a little bit more insulated from the direct client interactions. You're a little bit more removed from that now, or if not completely removed. What does that look like for you as the mentality of a mega every morning? How do you keep yourself going when you could be solving problems all day long if you wanted to?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Basically, look, the short answer is I've hired other people to worry about that. Well, luckily I married the guy. So I was married to him. So I will say it was a little bit easier, but not to say you can't do it, because there are so many, as we've grown our business, there's so many day-to-day challenges, right? So hiring the right people. And what I always say, the easiest way, like, how do you get out of this? People call me all the time. Even yesterday, I was on the phone with a guy and he's like, how do I get out of production? Or how do I get out of just buyers? Or the simple answer is write down everything you don't want to be doing anymore and hire to that. Now that's a whole thing on how to do that. That could be a whole nother class I could talk about, but usually I can get a great staff person hired within 2 weeks with my system. So, but yeah.
From scratch into 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear more about that in a little bit, but keep going.
Sure. Hey, Brandon. So yeah, I mean, I am excited every morning because I have built the life that I never knew I always wanted. Like, I just do what I want every day, which I love. That doesn't mean I'm not intentional, right? So what I said before, I time block things. Like, I made sure that I posted at least twice a day, every day, 5 days a week. That's kind of the standard for our team. We have no requirements. We have no prospecting requirements for our team. We have a model. They can follow it. They don't have to. We have a lot of business. We just give it to them. But, but I figured that I posted 10 times a week. I also have a Facebook group for my neighborhood that I really love on. I post there 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. I try to create community by creating events that serve nonprofits. I try to bring local businesses into it. I do a lot of sort of women's empowerment stuff. So, we learn a lot through business of how to build businesses, how to negotiate. And so I teach classes on that for our community.
Yeah. I want to hear more about that. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I want to hear more about that in a second, in terms of the women's empowerment and the real missional social aspect of your business. Let's get back into hiring for a little bit. Tell me about a bad hire you've made, or just a hire that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are really, really terrified of that happening. And I think that's the inertia for young solo agents, they're so scared of handing things over. So tell us about a bad hire and how you survived and all of that.
Yeah, we made a lot of, I wish I had a better word for it. Not necessarily bad hire, but wasn't right for our team, right? And at the end of the day, it ends up usually about culture fit, right? And I always put it back on myself. That's the only way to get through it and get better. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we had to get rid of almost all of our agents. They were not a good fit for our team. It was so toxic. We essentially started over. It was awful. My husband and I were on vacation and somebody called and they were like, we're separating from your business. It was her first year in real estate, helped her make over $200,000. She was done.
What?
That happened with about 3 agents, made over $200,000 their first or second year in real estate on our team, and they were done. We overworked them. So it was also not a good culture. So I think it's really about figuring out who you are, what your purpose is, and really getting that on paper, not just kind of knowing your head and what your beliefs are, your beliefs are kind of like your rules for who you want to interact with, who's going to bring you energy. So if you really are clear on that, then all your marketing to get somebody is going to focus on that. I think one of the biggest mistakes I think I see from agents on their first, second, third, 10th hire is they're putting out their stuff like, I'm looking for a transaction coordinator, somebody who's going to manage the transaction and fulfill a database. And it's would any of you want to, that is not inspiring. That just makes me want to run the other way. Who are you really looking for? Super detail oriented person who loves to solve problems, who could do Excel with their eyes closed, who loves to be in a learning environment. Like, think about the kind of person that you want in your life. And that's what you put the word out there for. You can explain the skills of the job, you can teach them, but you need the right humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. And so you've culture fit, and you mentioned burnout. You overworked these people. You heard me mention at the top of the call as we were getting ready that I just had my first ever therapy session. Like I've had a situation where mental health has just come to the top of my forefront, and I couldn't ignore it. So what does mental health in real estate look like for you? You guys have sold so many houses. You've clearly leveraged people that can help you do that in a healthy way. How do you care for your agents who are still the ones on the front lines with clients? Because that's where so many of us find ourselves, in that phase of burnout and on the 24-hour cycle. So what does mental health in real estate mean to you?
It's so important and it's huge. And if you're like me, who grew up in an environment, a family that didn't really believe in that sort of thing, and you've kind of been socialized and nurtured, maybe not nurture is the right word, to just suck it up. Like you grew up in a military family. You're moving every 6 months, every 2 years. Bye to all your friends, like suck it up. There's no time to cry. There's no time to like worry. There's no time to be sentimental. So I think naturally I'm probably a high D personality, but that definitely made it, even more so. So I think it has taken me a long time. I am still working on, I'm literally reading a book called Love right now to understand how to be an empathetic leader. Like, I think that's at the forefront. You got to lead with that. If you don't know how to do that, you have to do what I created systems of empathy. So if you're not the kind of person who needs a pat on the back, you might not realize that your people do. And so I made a point after, through learning and failing, that I have a consistent thing on my time blocks where I reach out to agents and people on our team to go for, agents on our team to go for a coffee. How are you? Like, really, how are you? Like a phone call to ask them that. If I feel like they're really having trouble, I want to meet them in person. We're all pretty virtual. We've always been like that. Our entire staff is made up of Army spouses stationed throughout the country. So that is like a phone call or a Zoom call. But really and then sending gifts and that sort of thing. We also have this thing we created. It serves a lot of purposes. One of them is mental health, but every 6 months we send a survey to all of our agents. And then we do a Zoom call through the survey. So we're asking them, on a scale of 1 to 5, this thing that we offer you, our on-demand coaching, we pay for half your showing agent. Like, how would you rank that? If it's not a 5, tell us what we need to do to get there. And I think that provides a lot of insight into how are we really supporting our people at the level that we need to be to keep great people on? Yeah.
So you're really just asking, how are they? And you're caring for them just like human beings, right? You're not guessing what they need, trying to implement the guess and check method. You're just straight up being present with them and knowing them intimately and what works and what doesn't work. I love that.
And I think the other piece that we failed at in the beginning was we ignored the fact that people have their own goals. And I just figured everybody wanted to sell as much real estate as possible. And I had 3 kids. I had 2 kids when those, and a lot of those people were single. They had no kids. And I thought, what are you doing if you're not working 70 hours a week, but that's unrealistic to put that on somebody. Not everyone has those goals, and that doesn't make them any, better a person or an agent. It's just, if you want to love people, if you want to build a culture of love, you have to recognize and acknowledge that they're going to have their own goals and their own, life they want to design.
Yeah. So tell us, how do you hire someone in 2 weeks? Because that sounds very contrary to the Keller Williams model of doing the career visioning and taking months and being slow to hire and quick to fire. So tell us about your process.
Yeah, I guess it sort of I got kind of lucky, and I also have no patience. So all that kind of comes together. Like I said, all of our staff is virtual. My first TC, I had met her through a company that they claimed to train TCs, and then they would hand you one and they may be serving other agents. Luckily, I got connected with this woman named Callie. She was like, I don't know, 19 at the time and already spent like 6 years in real estate, like, and she was Kellerized and everything. Maybe she was 20 by that point, 22, but she'd been in real estate longer than I had been in real estate. And I was paired with her. That company lied, cheated, and stole from us. So by the time her contract was over after a year and our contract was, we took her and she became my TC and EA from North Carolina. She was in Fayetteville or something like that. And I was, of course, here in DC, and then she's moved around a bunch of times since then. So we were starting to really understand how communication, training, all that needed to be from a virtual standpoint. The next few people, she had people on base who were babysitting for her, and they, these women would come, they'd be in their house watching her kids while she's working, and they're like, what is that you're doing? So that's how we got a few more. So when I say luck, but what we understood was this profile that we needed to hire for. And so the first thing, and I always talk about, is when you are putting the ad out there, again, you should lead with all the things, the kind of person that you want and that would be attracted to that. So like the number one thing, whether we're hiring an agent or a staff person, is adaptability. That is number one for me. I want somebody who can like roll with the punches, someone who is smart, someone who can do sometimes, like, depending on the job, Facebook with their eyes closed. Do they like following a recipe? Strangely obsessed with Excel or something like that. So you put all those things a lead, and then I say like what the benefits are working for us. And some of it's like live your own life. I think one of the big mistakes that we make is we kind of put our agents up here, and we put our staff down here, and they are the backbone. The staff is the backbone. So we need to give them the same level of love and respect. And if we're saying like, oh, I'm trying to live my life by design, and my agents, we need to help them live, what about our staff people? So once we thought about that, the whole world changed, everything changed, right? So we also want to understand their goals. Oh, you want to work, you applied to this job. This is a 10-hour week job, or this is a 5-hour week job. I mean, we have like 8 staff people, and they all do like the most random things, but it's like every time I come up with that list of like, oh, we should create this thing, or we need to improve this thing, I need to hire somebody and figure out how long that thing is going to take, 5 hours a week, 2 hours a week. And we put it out there. And that's the other sort of drunk monkey people have of like, oh, I got to hire this full-time 40-hour. And like, what if they don't do what I need them to do? That's probably a longer class, but I'll just say it's possible. We have done it. And don't feel like, also don't think of it like here's 40,000, 50, 60 out the door. It's week to week or bi-weekly they're getting paid, right? So think about it like that. And it's always an investment, right? Like you're not bringing somebody on to do something that's not going to benefit you. That is also going to hold you accountable to like, you need to be doing other things that are going to bring in dollars. So going back to the process, putting the right ad out there, you get all these resumes. Where do you put the ad? Put it out on social media, send it to your past clients. And if you're like, oh my God, I don't want that psycho to respond. Okay, well, write it up such that they would read it and go, okay, that's not me, right? And ultimately you can also like, there's other ways you can deal with that, but that's usually the biggest fear of people here. I get that, but people are like Indeed and all those things, you can put it on there, but start with your network first. Most likely that's where you're going to get somebody great and they already love you, know you trust them. So put it out there. When you get the resumes back, if there are some that you like, and what does it mean to like somebody? I don't know. They've got some kind of experience in service industry or something like that. We really don't hire a lot of people who have any real estate experience. I like to start from a clean slate. As long as you're a good person and your skill set matches, which that'll be the next thing we need to check off the box, we can train you to do the job. So when you get those resumes, then I KPA everybody. I know that is out of order. I know we're not supposed to do that, but if you match, which you probably get 3 to 5 people, I KPA you. If you're looking for any kind of admin work, like I usually just give you the EA or the TC role, I will only take you to the next round and talk to you if you come in as a high fit. You have to come in somewhere as a high fit.
And for EA and TC, you're looking for specifically a high C and some S probably? Is that on the disc profile? Or
probably, yeah. I don't use the disc.
You said KPA, that's right. Excuse me, I forgot.
Yeah, no worries. But I've heard that, people do like the disc. I've never been failed by the KPA. One time recently, so I have a few agents that I coach, and one came back and said, I feel like I need to hire this person because she kind of went out of order. That's fine. She talked to the person. She's like, I think they're great. I know their KPA showed them as like a low end and medium, but I feel like, can you just talk to them? And I went, okay. And I talked to them, validating the KPA. And the woman was like, Yeah, I took the KPA while I was in an airport. I was at a bar, and we specifically say when we put the KPA out there, take this KPA after coffee, before alcohol, where you will not be interrupted and when you are not tired.
Yep.
So then I felt validated, and the KPA was once again validated. I believe in it because she was drunk. So her results came in very
yeah.
different.
Oh, got it. Yeah. I thought you
which-
just meant just the busyness and the distractions of an airport, but that makes sense. Yeah. So she had,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, and I don't think she was
So-
necessarily drunk, but yeah, that's all the things.
so does that just,
Oh, you froze, Patrick.
or is that alone? Did that show you what you needed to see?
I personally, it wasn't my hire. I probably would have KPA'd her again. And
Okay.
after I actually did validate the KPA with her, because she was like, oh, these things aren't accurate. And she was able
yeah.
to see situations where I was like, okay, yep. So you were just distracted when you took this. So
Yeah.
once in a blue moon that happens, but I really believe in the KPA.
Yeah.
KPA comes in high. Then I offer like a 15-minute interview. And really, I'm just trying to dig into like, tell me about yourself. Like, tell me, and I'll see where the conversation goes. Like, what kind of person is this? What's their interest? And then I might have one more interview with them. And I have a few more questions there. And usually I might have my director of operations or my husband ask a few questions, and then that's it. They're hired if they do well.
So in case you're watching this on YouTube later, and you're not part of Keller Williams, or you just don't know what a KPA is, it's the Keller Personality Assessment. Realtors, entrepreneurs, businesses around the world have been coming up with personality assessments, the Myers-Briggs, the DISC assessment, what animal are you, things like that for years. And Keller Williams has worked with the company to develop this one for Keller Williams specifically. And it can be taken for specific roles. So you can have an agent KPA, an admin KPA, and that's what Sheena's referring to. And it is so important to do that validation process, because you're basically saying, here's what the KPA says, and it'll print out paragraphs. Sheena is likely to respond this way when she's under stress. Sheena's motivated by this sort of incentive rather than this sort of, reward, things like that. And you just basically go through the process and ask the candidate, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does this statement sound like you? Usually you'll get a lot of 8s, 9s, and 10s, right? If they didn't take it drunk at an airport bar. But the important thing is maybe they did have something going on. Maybe they had a really stressful event the night before, or any number of things. I remember when I took an assessment called the AVA, I thought I was in a very peaceful place. It was very calm, a nice night, no alcohol. I was sitting in this rental house, but it was the night before I moved to Raleigh to start my real estate career. So all my belongings were in in a truck. I'd been married about 4 months to my wife. We had very little money. I was incredibly stressed, even though in the moment I took it at the computer, I was very calm, but there was so much going on and it really skewed the results. So what Sheena's talking about is really digging in and doing your due diligence, because you're handing over your business to someone that you don't really know that well yet. And we have to get to the root of these things, because Sheena, would you agree it's a lot easier to not hire the wrong person than it is to fire someone once they've gotten into the role, and how much more tangled that is? Have you had to let anyone go like that? Or let me ask you this, what does it look like when you bring them on? Because you said you don't like a lot of real estate experience and you like to train them. What does your training look like? How did you develop that? Are you personally the one training, or do you have managers who are doing that for you?
Yeah, I have other people. I have a prospecting class that I teach. And that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours of how we build our business by referral. So I basically teach our agents how to fish. I do that class. I enjoyed that piece, and it helps me to help them set up their one. I don't even know if I would say I help them set up their 1 through 5 at this point, but I do I'll get a better understanding of what are the things you want to do to prospect. Cause I don't care how you prospect, or even if you do, but if you want to do it, I can help you with that. And then I have a negotiations class that I teach as well. So I teach that to the agents. That's pretty much the end of what I do. My director of operations has a list of all the things that they need to do through 30, 60, 90. Some of it's reading books. The hyper local, hyper fast real estate agent is one of our favorites. MREA, never split the difference. Yeah. And if I notice something about them, let's say that they have a hard time shutting up. That's my problem. I have a book I like to say for every problem. So I prescribe books. So you can't stop talking like me. There's a book called Just Listen. It teaches you how to just stop talking and listen to people. So she has a whole list of things. They have to read certain things. They have to shadow on a certain number of times on showings and all sorts of things. What I think, if you're just starting out on the hiring, make sure you record everything, even if it's messy. Do a Zoom, record yourself doing a buyer and seller consultation. It doesn't have to be pretty, But
Yep.
this, I think that's very critical when anyone comes on our team, whether you are a staff member or an agent. You record, you let them view your buyer and seller consultation as you doing it, because it creates context around what we do, and it shows them sort of the culture of your business and how you operate, right? Because then they get a better sense of like, okay, you got to set the foundation. So that's really important. Again, record everything. If you have like a complicated conversation with an agent trying to teach them through coach them through a negotiation, record that. This is going to help you begin a library. Doesn't need to be pretty. My husband has an engineering background. I'm liberal arts. So we have very different approaches. There is actually a video of me going through our contract. We have about 10 different versions of the contract in the DC metro area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. We have about 10 different. The longest contract is 74 pages. It's very complex. I have a video where I go through it. I'm literally holding it and I'm walking everybody through it. It's an hour and a half. My husband's is 3 hours. So pick your poison.
Wow. Yeah. What is it like to be in business with your spouse? And did you guys start that from the very beginning, or did that develop over time?
Yeah. So I was in business for about 4 or 5 years until before he got in. He was like, I am so done working for this corporate selling IT. And he wanted to open up a sports bar like every guy wants to.
That's awesome.
I think he did a little research and was like, oh, okay, I'm going to be like
that. Could be good lead generation for the business, though. You got a lot of potential leads. Yeah. So
well, we have purchased businesses due to thankfully making money off real estate. So we'll eventually get the sports bar. But he came in about 4 or 5 years in. He has a very different personality type. He is a high D, just like I am, but he's more like the engineer. So I guess that's a high C.
DC.
And we, So he actually came in and we thought we would split the business. He does half the clients, I do half the clients. And how would it kind of just evolved into I was doing more sellers, he was doing more buyers, because you don't come in and start doing all these sellers. You got to first really learn the business on the ground. So buyers. And then we realized, okay, I'm really the one. I love prospecting. I love going out and getting business by referral. Like, I don't mean phone calls. I've never done phone calls, but I love doing that. And he's so patient. He loves servicing, helping people. Not that I don't like helping people, but that's just his jam. So what we ended up doing is I was just bringing in all the business. He was servicing it all. And that's how it grew. And now he's chief operating officer. Like, he's really, and he handles most of our listings. We're trying to push more of those on our agents, but we definitely evolved. We didn't have like a big plan. It was just kind of like what was needed. I think you don't necessarily need a big plan. I think you just need to like take time to like see what's working in your business, what's not working, and are you happy, Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's just like KPA. With your husband, you obviously know him way better, so you already know a lot of his personality and if it would be a good fit. And just trying it and making it work and being honest and evaluating throughout the process. It sounds like you guys had a vision, you had to pivot a little bit, and you've adjusted how you do that. Tell me about, you mentioned you buy other businesses, right? Tell me about, what does wealth building look like for you, whether in real estate investments and outside of that?
Yeah. So let's see, the first thing, we do have a few JVs, right? Like with our brokerage. So like, we do own part of a title company. That kind of just fell into our laps. I can't really say that I think there was like you had to be at a certain production level, to be able to be a part of that, to buy in. And we actually have utilized that in a way that, we are now that it's like bringing in some money, our top agents and our top staff are going to be able to be a part of that too and get some profit share, which is kind of fun. So we think about investment in a lot of different ways. So I know you said wealth building, but we have drilled wells all over Africa. We have just almost building a school for girls in Kenya. When we think about generational wealth and legacy and investment, that's probably where my heart is. But if you're really talking about, okay, money coming back, I was thinking for a long time, what else could we do that, could be more like passive income and something to diversify, because real estate is wonderful and there's all kinds of ways. Like, we do own several investment properties, but I coach real estate agents. We do real estate. were, so it's all real estate. So I'm like, what else can we do? And so I was looking up best franchises to buy. And I came across this med spa company that's all over the country. And they were looking for franchisees. They want to grow quicker. So most of they have like 100 stores that are all owned by corporate. So we're like the first real franchise for this med spa. I think the buy-in was about just over $1 million. Bought into that, and it's been going really well. Just had another call today. Awesome. Yeah. And it's pretty passive. Like, at first it was rocky. And I'm sure we're still going to hit some bumps, but it was a lot more work than we anticipated in the beginning, but now it's going well. We've purchased the rights to 2 more. During COVID, a lot of we live so grateful to live in this like neighborhood that's like, it's very rare for our area I'm like right outside of DC in Maryland. And we're in a neighborhood that's walkable. We have lots of restaurants and grocery stores and all that. So we can walk to it. And there's a lot of small businesses here that were struggling through COVID. So we didn't want them to fail. So the ones that we patronize and love, like our local gym, we gave, significant loans with no interest. They're still, so we just, lent people, $10,000 or so here and there. Yeah. And actually, interesting, one of those businesses has asked us if we would like to purchase the business. And I wanted to, I feel like there's so much I've learned at Keller Williams. I'm like, yep, we need to do this, and this. I can see it so clearly. And then I own my I guess it's coaching company. I coach a few agents. So I think that's it. Yeah.
So yeah, you're talking about the Keller Williams. You've learned so much. It's not how to run a real estate business. It's how to run a business, right? Hiring, firing, training, operations, customer satisfaction, all sorts of things that are transferable skills that we can operate in other businesses. And I find it so fascinating when people, whether they want to follow the sports bar dream or any number of things. One thing we're gonna wrap up here. Sheena's got amazing stuff that she does, and I'm gonna tell a quick story about Sheena and how she and I first connected. But I want to encourage you guys to come off of your muted video, show them your face. Jev, my boy down there in San Antonio, it is great to see your face here, man. Not only to give Sheena the just the energy of seeing our faces, she's clearly a high energy person, but also to come off mute and ask her any questions. So we'll leave a few minutes at the end for anyone who asks questions. So be thinking of those, and let's take advantage of this time that we have with a rock star like Sheena. So real quick, can you guys hear me okay with the landscapers? Okay. So when I was at a family reunion in February, I was in an Uber late at night, as often happens with the KWYP crowd, right? And I got up to my hotel room and I went to go set my alarm to go to sleep at like midnight, I think. And I hit all my pockets and I said, oh, certain words came out of my mouth. And I did not have my phone, and my phone was in the Uber. I logged on to uber.com, report a lost or stolen item. It says, use the Uber app to report it. I'm like, I don't have my phone. I can't do it. And so an hour later, I called the front desk. I finally got through to Uber. I called my dad and woke him up. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had to put your number down for a callback number. I put the front desk number. I said, hey, front desk, if anyone calls, it's my taxi driver. He has my phone. I get a call an hour later. This is like 1 a.m. at this point. Hey, it's the front desk. Someone has your phone, but it's not your Uber driver. She's like this blonde realtor. And I was like, okay, I'm coming down. So I come downstairs. She's like, I found your phone. And I was overwhelmed. She's Sheena. I had kind of seen your name. I knew you had this cool shower truck thing, which I want to hear about. And I said, how did you find my phone? She said, well, I went into saw your phone, and I decided I'm going to find who owns this. It's probably KW, right? You looked in my alarms. You somehow couldn't unlock my whole phone, obviously, but you could get into my reminders. And one of them said, like, call Audrey. You Google this person. You find she's a KW agent. Hey, Audrey, I found this phone. I think your name was on it. Who does this belong to? And I don't even remember the whole thing, but somehow you found out it was me, and we were in the same hotel, right? So I meet Sheena, and she's like, yep, that's just a day in the life. Here you go. Here's your phone. And she was ready to walk off. And I could tell you had this like energy and this servant mind, this energy to where you want to solve as many problems as you can. So thank you for that. And before we hear about your shower truck, did you have any recollections about that crazy story you wanted to share? And how you tracked me down like kind of a creepy detective?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was so cool. I just love how, I just feel like it's such a KW story, because it's like, yes, whatever we can do to help people. And like, there was always a connection. And I posted the story to show other people, like, God, if he didn't have that alarm. And then I heard all these other stories about, oh, you can set this on there as an emergency contact. So I think your loss helped a lot of people. So that was just cool, but it was so great. Now we're here. How cool is that?
Yeah, I love it. So tell us about the shower truck that you've done and any other charitable, mission-minded wings of your business?
Yeah, so I'll try to remember it all. That's how it really got started. We got really strategic. As I said, I worked for a lot of nonprofits. So I was giving I was writing a few checks here and there, but I went to this women's empowerment event in Baltimore, which is about an hour north of me. But I kind of went to high school in the suburbs just outside of Baltimore. So kind of from the area a little bit. And I had met this couple who, the wife I had ran track with in high school. The husband I didn't know, but he was from Africa in Cameroon. And they were saying they had been feeding the homeless every single month, first, second Saturday of the month. And what they came to realize is in Baltimore City, there was no, very corrupt government, by the way, there was no safe place to get a shower, right? So their dream was to follow the Lava Mae in San Francisco and build a shower truck for the homeless. So I said, you know what, my business is taking off. I would love to be a part of this. With every closing, I will donate. And then I told any potential referral partners, hey, if you donate to us, you're going to be helping to invest in this. So about 3.5 years later, we had raised over $80,000, built the shower truck. Yeah. And for about 2 years, my clients would come down there. I was down there every week. I helped build the board for that nonprofit. We started building wells in Africa through that nonprofit. My husband went to Kenya and learned that they were looking to build a school for girls, because after 4th grade in some of these rural villages, the girls they don't send their girls to school because it costs money. The government basically just forgets about everybody. So built a shower truck for the homeless. The stories that came out of that, I was not expecting that, but people would show up, and trigger warning, they would show up and they would sometimes be really upset. I actually had the story that really, I would say, changed my perspective on life. I've had a lot of those experiences working on the ground with homeless people. But this guy came and he was just cursing at everybody. He was just in a really bad mood. You could smell the alcohol on him. He was really pissed off.
Wow.
And I was and I said, these are volunteers. They don't have to be here. They're here to serve you. So, could you be just a little nicer? And he was like, fuck you. If you weren't, he was like, if you weren't here, somebody else would be here. And I looked up at that shower truck with my logo on it, and all the underwear, the clean underwear and the towels that people in my community had been donating, and all the clothing, and thinking about when we come home, there are boxes of Amazon that I have gotten from our community, all these donations. My kids are a part of this. I brought my community. I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to make the shower truck possible. And I thought, how dare you? How dare you? And then I realized, whoa, check yourself. He slept on concrete last night. He almost got run over last night. He's hungry. He needs a shower. He probably hasn't showered in a month. And so I didn't say what I first thought. I controlled myself and realized there was more to that story. And I went, I totally get what you're saying. Can I walk you over to the shower? And I helped him get in there, and I waited for him to come out, and he came out a different person. Person. And that's how the shower truck was. It gives people their hope and dignity. It's because the last thing you have, if you have nothing, you have no housing, you have no food, you have nothing. All you have is how you look and how you smell. People will judge you, right? So if you feel good, clean, that's the beginning. So shower truck, I read this book called The Master Plan about this guy, Chris, who had been in Jessup Penitentiary. It's a maximum security prison. He wrote it about 10 years ago when he got out. And he was saying, oh, there's no library there. And I checked with the, and I'm really big into literacy. So I checked with the penitentiary, and they didn't have a library. So in about 2 or 3 weeks, we got donated about 1,000 brand new, gently used books. And we brought that to the prison. So we created the first library for this prison, which I'm super excited about. And we're about to, this for girls about to open. We try to do something every month. We feed the squeegee boys. Anyway, so that's just a few things we've been able to do.
What's next for your team? You could clearly sell a lot more houses. You could do more charitable things. Is there a goal that you have, or a dream, whether it's personal, like in your own investments, or a vacation you want to take, or for an accomplishment you want to reach for the team?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that I realized. What I talked about on so many stages in front of KW agents, trying to share this story. The purpose is not to show off, because who cares about your name and lights, right? The purpose is really, who else can we energize and help to understand that if you are out there leading and you're loving on people, you can grow a big business, right? So to get more people into this generosity thing, we are launching in Mega Camp, Chris and Francis in this area and I are launching something called Imagination Generation. I believe it will be picked up by KW. It's basically bringing Keller Williams agents together to understand how we have built businesses by giving back. So my goal is for Keller Williams agents through that program to give $1 million a month to charity and do even bigger things. So I want to take generosity to another level. That's huge for me. The other thing is, we've been doing a lot with charity, and I also had this mind shift change of like, it's a little kind of off topic, but just thinking leadership and impact, I realized like, why do we have all these nonprofits? Like the fact that our country has to have these nonprofits, I think that means the system is broken. So I need to go in and try to figure out how I can change the structures that require these nonprofits to exist. So I've gotten a little bit political, and I try to do it in a way that brings right and left together. I'm an independent, but getting involved with politics, not running necessarily. I want to run for Baltimore City one day, mayor. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think, being a part of that, getting the vote out and that sort of thing has been another thing that we're getting excited about.
You heard it here first, folks. What questions do you guys have for Sheena? Come off mute. Please show us your beautiful, energetic faces this morning, or your struggling faces. If you need some inspiration from Sheena, come on and ask her a question. Unmute yourselves and just have at it. And Sheena, with our technical difficulties, we probably have a few less folks than usual. So I just want to thank you for the energy you brought this morning. And this is going to live on YouTube for as long as YouTube exists. So there's going to be a lot of value that's had here, and I hope it builds your business. So does anyone here have any questions?
I have a question. Sheena, I know you talked a little bit about, people that didn't work out, what have you on your team. I've been on a team, so I've been there and I get it all. What advice do you have as far as agent retention, and how do you keep your people happy, basically?
It's a very good question. The first thing is hiring the right people who see kind of eye to eye with you on things, which is harder than it sounds, right? But once you're really clear on what your purpose is, what you stand for, what you'll put up with and what you won't, that's important, right? And when you're real clear about that and put that out there, that energy emanates and it attracts the right people. Like now people just come to us, right? So I think that's the first part, trying to hire the right person for your culture. Really honoring what their purpose is, what they stand for, acknowledging that, being consistent about, checking in with them. We also try to do gifts. We do in-person events, just try to have fun, a lot of fun. We're on text message threads. So that's important. Sending them to trainings, keeping them growing, having book club together. I think those are probably the biggest, probably business wise thing is, for us, it was a big change when we said, okay, no prospecting standards. I'm just going to focus on bringing in this business and being able to provide that, and taking off the nurturing off of their plates, taking off all of that administration, anything we can do to make their lives easier so they can 100% focus on the client. And take great care of them. They're not doing all the other stuff they hate doing. We hire to all those things like, oh, you need to put this in the database. You need to make appointments. We'll hire people to do those things for you so they can focus. And guess what happens? They love on their clients so much because they have the time and the energy to put that labor forth that clients recommend them more. So now we have they don't have to prospect because people are just sending them business because they have become evangelicals for them. That's what I would say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What other questions do you guys have for Sheena? I've got one, Sheena. You've mentioned a few book titles, and you mentioned having a book club. What are the top 4 or 5 books that have impacted you, or the ones that you like to give as a gift to other people the most?
Mm-hmm. A good question. I've been reading some really cool books lately. Definitely the Hyper Local, Hyper Fast Agent. If you're first 3 years in the business, read it. If you're starting a team, you should require that of your agents. I think it's awesome. It talks about negotiating, prospecting. It's a very easily digestible, easy read. Just Listen is a great one if you have a hard time stopping talking. If you are in a place where you need to let somebody go, there's a really great book called Necessary Endings. With that book, I had the courage to let someone go, to help them self-select off the team. That's actually just a great one for anytime you run into any trouble. Necessary Endings. It has just great scripts in it. They don't call it scripts, but it's just how to help, how to meet someone where they are and help us all get to a better place. So it's kind of like Crucial Conversations, but I actually like this one better. Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud. See No Stranger, beautiful book I just finished. I've been reading a lot of books by like radicals, just because of like how, we've seen people treat each other. And Keller Williams is about bringing, all sorts of diverse people together and to collaborate and do amazing things. So I've been reading books like Across That Bridge by, it's John Lewis. He was there on the Selma Bridge and he was hosed down by the Alabama National Guard. But how to just like love on your community and build this beloved community Martin Luther King talked about. Another book, I've been reading a lot of Bell Hooks books. I really try, what a really good one for leadership. What's his name? It's called The Ride of a Lifetime. It's the guy who ran Disney for 25 years. It's an amazing book.
There we go. I was trying to unmute. Yeah, Bob Iger, right?
Yes. Did you read it?
I haven't read that one. No, I haven't, but I've heard about it and I want to read that one. The Ride of a Lifetime. I've got that pulled up now to make sure I can read it. One last question on this. You're very busy. I have a difficulty squeezing reading into my day. Do you time block your reading, or is it one of those things that you love it so much it just fills in your white space around meetings?
Yeah, more the latter at this point. I'm just obsessed with being a better person and undoing, anything that trauma has created, and just kind of undoing those things. So I think I've just really committed to it. Yeah, I have 3 kids, running these businesses, doing all the things. Whenever I'm on a plane, I'm going to read a few books. I always have books with me. I have them in the car. If we're driving somewhere, I'm reading. Sometimes I'll just read to him. Anywhere that I am, if I'm cooking, I'm going to have a book there. I try to make a point to read in front of my kids. That's important to me, and to read with them. Yeah.
So last question related to that. You work a lot, you read a lot of self-improvement. How do you unwind? How do you have hobbies, friendships outside of real estate? What does that look like for you as a busy, successful person?
Friendships outside of real estate is honestly a little bit hard for me, because I've grown my network so big of people that I just interact with, I like, but it's hard to keep everything straight. So oftentimes I have to be okay, anybody want to meet me here? And I'll just every 100 people want to meet me, or 25 people. So
office hours.
Yeah, it is kind of hard for the one-on-ones. And I know that's a little bit hard for people. So that's something I'm working on. But as far as unwinding, I work out. I work out 5 days a week, at least I have to. And I go, and I'm really kind of lazy, honestly. I just turned 40. So I feel like I don't, if I have to figure out more decisions of okay, what do I lift? I can't do it. So I've taken to studio classes. So I go to Solid Core and I go to Bar Method, which is a bar class. So I just need someone else to tell me what to do. And that's my zen right there.
I love that. That's such a good hack for someone. We make so many decisions. I've never thought about that. I went to the gym yesterday and I even had this inertia of what do I lift? What am I working on today? And just like Steve Jobs always wearing the same outfit, right? For you, one of the ways to eliminate decision fatigue, show up to a class and let someone else tell me what to do. And we all need that. We can't be deciding every single thing all day long. So I love that hack. Sheena, we're a few minutes after 12. I know we started a few minutes late with technical difficulties. Jevi, Steve, and anyone else on this call want to take advantage of our time with the top producer here and an amazing human who's shared a lot of her business and life with us.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Super high eye. Definitely love it. See you in LA.
Thank you.
Kevin, my boy.
What's Kevin?
What's up,
Steven looking
just wanted to pop on and say hi.
Awesome, man. KWYP family. Well, that said, we're going to conclude this tonight. Please, if you get a chance this morning, not tonight, what am I even talking about? Please thank Sheena for her time. Sheena, how can people find you and support you? The best way to get in touch if they have questions.
Thank you. Yeah, find me on Facebook. We'll be friends. We're in the DC Metro area. We do DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. We will take great care. We do a lot of agent referrals, so we'll update you every other week. We have lots of processes, and we'll donate to local charities. We're your charity. And the final thing is, if you're coming to Mega Camp, I will only be there for 30 hours. We're having a party with Richard James, with other people, Jason Abrams, moderating, which I'll be on. It's August 24th from 7 to 9 p.m. in Austin. Come, we're going to raise a lot of money for charity. And we're going to talk about growing big businesses through good work. So.
August 24th, 7 to 9 p.m. Is there a link to RSVP or just show up? And where is it located?
Right. I'll post it everywhere.
Okay.
So
yeah, put it in KWYP for us. Yeah, friend Sheena, so you see the invite. let's all meet up in person. Tell Sheena what you've implemented from the past few weeks before we go to Mega Camp. In case you didn't hear at the top, this is KWYP, Keller Williams Young Professionals Network. Specifically, we are the Triangle chapter in Raleigh, Durham area of North Carolina, the capital metro area here. I'm Patrick Madigan, your vice president. We had Kate, our president, on here. We had Emily and Stephen that rounds out the rest of our leadership team. If you're curious about joining Keller Williams as a brokerage or getting into real estate, any one of us in this call would be passionate to tell you about how real estate has changed our lives and why we love it, and also why we hate it at times too, and what that looks like for us to continue to stick with it. If you want to join KWYP, or if you're curious, it's super easy, kyp.org. And with that said, we'll hope to see you next month, and see you on the Facebook group with YP, and hope to see you at Mega Camp in August. So thank you, Sheena, so much. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thank you.
Next weekend.